Hey, everybody. Welcome to Truth About Marketing. Super excited to have my guest, Mel Rodriquez, here today. She's the CEO and founder of Mel.Media. Mel, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, why don't we start off? Tell everybody a little bit about yourself, what you do, how you got to where you are today.
I started modeling at a really young age. And with modeling, you travel around the world, right? You go to different events, different shoots or whatever. But as I was doing that, I was networking, I was connecting with people, in different states, different countries. And then I just slowly over time became the middleman. Mel's like, okay, like I know I can go to Mel. She may not know somebody, but she knows somebody that knows somebody, right?
Right.
So I just became that person. And for years, people would just ask me for stuff. And so that was a part of it, right? So I was like, okay, like this is a lot of free work. And then, like I said, I've been in modeling forever. So models would come to me for jobs. But the most important part of all that is the media part, right? So that's what really started it was modeling. One time I was shooting and I was like, you know what? I have an idea. Most photographers hate it. They're like, don't direct my shoot. Like, I'll tell you what
Right.
to do, right? But they loved it. They're like, wow, like we actually really like this. Let's do it. So we're like doing all this stuff together. And they pull me to the side. They're like, you have like a creative mind. Like, and we're just saying like, maybe you could do more with that. And it kind of stuck with me. And I was like, yeah, like that'd be cool. And then I caught myself directing all my own photo shoots and video shoots for so long that I was like, why don't I make this into a business? Like I absolutely enjoy it. I like to be different. You could see an ad or a commercial, but what makes you actually listen to it and watch it? So that's kind of where it started. The media, the models came in, and then the connections came in, and I just put it all under Mel.Media just through my journey.
Nice. Right on. Well, that's awesome. Everybody has a kind of a unique story of how they got to where they're at. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. We'll definitely touch on that more, but we do at the beginning of every kind of episode, we do this lightning round, right? 7 questions, quick hitters, kind of gets our brains jogged talking about topics. Is that cool? We'll start with that.
Let's do it.
Okay, awesome. The first one is favorite marketing technology.
I would say Canva.
Awesome. I use it so much. It's like my favorite new thing
It
to
has
use. So,
everything. Why not?
absolutely. Favorite social channel.
Instagram.
Yep, big one.
That'll,
Least favorite social channel.
unfortunately, Twitter. I don't know why. I can't. I can't. It doesn't keep my focus. I don't know what it
People
is.
are super polarized by Twitter. It's so funny. Like I've been using it way back since my Silicon Valley days, but it's funny because people are one end or the other with that one.
I have it,
Brand or
but yeah.
yeah, yeah, brand or person with good marketing.
Um, right now I would say like Ethica. They're in like every industry. It's
Danny
crazy.
Evans, right? Yeah, he's big,
Yeah,
really
shout out
big.
to Tanya Evans. That's a
Yeah,
homie.
right on. Brand or person that needs help with marketing.
Balenciaga. I
Very
don't think
much
we could
so.
explain that one, but
No,
put it
no,
together.
yeah, yeah. Okay, favorite influencer or business leader.
Honestly, a lot of people come to mind, but just currently right now, someone more local would be Christina Laguna.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
know. Yeah, I don't know where she gets all her energy and all her ideas, but it never stops. And I love
Yep,
that.
that's awesome. Shout out to Christina. And then brand or person you'd like to work with the most.
Currently, right now, Gila River, they're one of my partners, and they're in everything as well. Whether it's like NBA, pool parties, DJs. We're
Cool.
actually doing a care event, so yeah, I love working
That's
with them.
awesome. That's fun. Yeah. Well, you did good. Got a lot of different answers. Worked in some locals, so that's really fun. Let's talk a little bit more about kind of your business and what you're doing today. So it is obviously, this is the truth about marketing. We're talking a lot of bit about different people and like what they do and how that they're impacted in the marketing world, right? So for you and your business, you said you started with modeling, but then, what was kind of the first thing you did and then the next step and the next step, kind of talk us through how you built this marketing company or media company.
Yeah. So, and again, it kind of started as marketing, and then it switched to media.
Yep.
But like I was saying before, it was just modeling. I've been in the healthcare field and had a double life of, literally like studying science books, and then I would be flying out for a model event. And
Mhm.
I realized I really loved connecting with people. I loved learning different industries, and I noticed that like a lot of people say like you have so many different types of friends, and and I do. You'll catch me at a fashion show, and then the next week you'll catch me at some like I don't know, action sport, gnarly event going on, and I'm getting dirty with the guys. Like, it's just like I enjoy so many industries. So it's like, why not discover all of them? And so with modeling, I was able to do that. And then it was fun to just create in every
Yeah.
industry, I always say. And that's kind of just where it started.
That's cool. And, I talk a lot. I've had some conversation, like Bird was on the show before and he's like a hardcore creative. Like, talk a little bit more about that as well and like what you find interesting and like kind of what, excites you about that. Cause for me, I enjoy marketing and I enjoy doing things. And I think I'm like kind of funny and creative a little bit, but I am nowhere near the level of being like a creative. It's like me with instruments. Like, I think I could like sit and play a couple tunes on a guitar, but like I am nowhere near a musician.
Yeah, I tried.
Yeah.
Honestly, for me, it's like telling a story. I love, so I'm also our creative director. So for instance, if there's like a photo shoot, they're like, okay, Mel, this is kind of what we want to do, but like, how can we make it work? I put a mood board together and I literally to the very detail. So from the hair, the makeup, the poses, the clothes you're wearing, the lighting, the everything about it, I put
Yeah.
all on a mood board so we can create it. And then on set, you change it all the time. I want it to be something where where people can like you can tell a story through it. And I'm really huge on transitions. I don't know if you know a lot about like media, but like when you watch something and transition to something different and something else, you're like, oh, like where's it going now? And so that's probably one of my favorites. Again, we just I think what was it 2 years ago, November in 2021 is when we launched Mel.Media. So we're still considered a baby company. Sometimes I beat myself up and I'm like, I'm nowhere near where I want to be. But everyone's like, Mel, you worked with some of the biggest people and it's only been 2 years. You need to
Right.
chill out.
Yeah.
So
No, that's
still
that's
recruiting.
yeah. In those early days, it's definitely. It seems like you're not going anywhere, like you're not doing anything, but in reality, like you are making progress. And I know, just being around you and our network of people, like that's a long way to go in 2 years. So,
Yeah.
um, but talk a little bit more about again, you spoke on like attention to detail. I don't think that people really realize like how much goes into
Gosh.
media, like ads, like all this kind of, and I've done it my whole, professional career, but like, I really don't think that people pay or understand how much attention to detail there is. So talk a little bit more about that.
No, definitely. So I mean, let's start with ads. First of all, like who are you targeting? So like I will sit there for one client for I don't care, like an hour and sit there and find who to target because one thing leads to another. They're like, well, country, it's not really like who we're targeting. I'm like, but the people that go to country festivals will probably still like Coachella and this and that. And they're like, oh, okay. And so it's just like those little things, right? You can cross promote or however. And so we do. We spend every minute we can. Again, we're not a full marketing company, but you do have some kind of marketing ideas and tools that you use with along with media. And as in like detail, it's funny you say that because most people see you and like, oh, you just stand there and look pretty, and you're like, no, I stayed up to like 2 in the morning, looking for like images and this and that and putting it together. I mean, heck, behind the scenes, people are like, do you ever sleep? And I'm actually sleeping the most I've ever had this year, and so I'm proud of myself. But yeah, it's those little details, and it's maybe one day I'll actually do a behind the scenes of what what it takes me, and then
Yeah,
people, what the heck? But no, it's fun because when it all comes together and you see the final project, you're like, that was worth it. I did it.
absolutely. And so, when you're speaking about like doing these projects and whatnot, like talk to people about kind of like what it's like or what it, you said you might do it behind the scenes one day, but like, what does that really look like for you and for your company? So like, client comes on and says, hey, like we want to do an ad campaign or we have this idea for social media or whatever. So then what do you where do you guys take it from there? What do you do?
Honestly, I start with just interviewing them first. They come with an idea, and sometimes they don't really know exactly how to even explain it. And I'm like, okay, what are your goals? What is this? What don't you like? What do you like? You don't want to put something out there, and put all your energy in something. They're like, oh, actually, I didn't really like that color. I didn't like that. It's like, well, why didn't you tell me that? So it's like an interview process, right? You ask them all these questions, you gather it up. I do like a draft where I start putting things together. I send it to them. I'm like, okay, how does this look so far? And if they go, yay or nay, it helps me in which direction to go. And that's normally how it starts, from everything. Now, if it's a video, same thing. I can't tell you how many times I've changed a song in a video because they're like, I'm not feeling that song. Most creatives know when you change the song, it changes the whole entire video. And so you just kind of have to re-edit everything. But yeah, it's time consuming. It's a good thing we enjoy it,
Yeah,
but yeah, it takes time.
absolutely. And so once, you kind of have one or two clients, this is where I'm at right now, right? Like you're growing, you're trying to get, a few more clients. What is kind of your process of going out and finding more, right? Because like you always have to have this balance of like, hey, my plate's full, or like I'm about to end a project, now I got to go find more. So talk a little bit about like how you kind of source and build and grow, when you're finding new clients.
I mean, overall, I would have to definitely say I've been blessed just being in the industry, all the different types of energies for so long that a lot of it has just, you know,
Word of mouth.
with
Yeah.
itself. Yeah, it dropped right in front of me. And so I'm like, okay, this is great. But I would say honestly, networking, just really getting to know people, connecting with people. You're fresh in their mind when you go to like events or that, and just being real, just be down to earth with people because they really get to feel, who do you want to work with when you're working on growing your brand or doing that's not someone that's, could care less about your brand or doesn't really care where it goes. They get it done and move on. No, someone that's like going to put their all into, creating and helping your brand. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I mean, I would say that's key. People are like, I don't want to go talk to people. Guess what? A lot of us would love to stay home. Don't get me wrong, but like get out there, go network, connect, because that's truly what grows a business.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, what is your kind of like ideal client? So you're working with like Gila River, right? Like, and they're an awesome ideal client, but like, what are some other kind of like ideal clients or industries that you tend to like to work with?
Um, Honestly, I'm adrenaline junkie, so I feel like anything that kind of gets you going. So whether it's, some kind of action sport or something where you're like, should we be doing that? I don't know. I love working with clients that just have fun and that are open to creative ideas. So for instance, I used to work with like a pizza client and he's like, okay, are you cool with this idea? I'm like, what's your idea? He's like, I want to climb on top of my pizza building. I'm like, okay. That day I came in hills, by the way. Didn't know this. And he's like, and I want to propose to you, but I want to open a pizza box and get a drone pulling out. And I'm like, whoa, shit. I was like, I'm wearing heels and I don't even, you know what, fuck it, let's do it. So I'm
Yeah.
sitting there and it's not even like a cute like ladder. No, he threw like a ladder on top of a dumpster. And
Oh,
then I had to on
geez.
that. And then I had to walk up and hold myself. And then he threw a ladder back up to get all the way to the roof. It was crazy. But then like it was so much fun because it was kind of this like adrenaline feeling like we shouldn't be
Yeah.
doing this. I'm gonna fall. And then once we finally got the shot, it was like hilarious.
Yeah.
So
And it's
like I'm
different. It's different for sure.
different. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's super cool. I love stuff like that. It's just so like, I mean, I've worked in tech my whole time, right? So like pretty much my whole career. And like, people are not as willing to take chances. So I want to talk about that too. That like, you know, you get in with clients, and I've been involved in like ad campaigns and media shoots and things like that. And so many times people are like, they want this viral video, they want something to explode, but they're not willing to take chances or take risks. They're like, well, oh, I'm not doing that. Well,
Yeah.
okay, this was the idea and that was our idea to get you viral, but like you doing what everyone else does is not going to get you there. So talk a little bit about like managing client expectations, like people wanting to go viral and kind of how you go through that.
I mean, absolutely. It doesn't, you need something that's going to set you apart. And that's what I tell clients all the time. I'm like, I can do exactly what you want, but you're just going to get in line with everybody else. Like, and so for instance, like our dental office, we're very different.
Yeah.
We have our dog come in, emotional support. We have athletes that fly in that have fun, like a whole vibe. We make our own playlist. It's it's really important just to really be different. And so some clients, they kind of get scared, and this happens a lot. They're like, I don't know, like how people are going to react. And I'm like, you won't know until you try it,
Right.
you know. And so that's another thing with picking clients. It's making sure you have a good relationship. And there's some people that I've honestly told like, hey, you know what, I love what you're doing, but I don't think I'm the person for you because I want to try these things for you,
Sure.
and you don't. And I think it's holding us back. So like maybe we're just not we won't have the best working relationship.
Yeah, no, that's really important too. Like to be able, and sometimes that's hard, right? Like for you to turn away business to be like, hey, like I just don't think we're a good fit, but
Yeah.
you got to do it. You know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
not going to be like, sometimes there's clients that like it's just not a good fit. Like I don't think we'll work well, or I don't agree with your, whatever that might be. And I think that's a hard thing too.
Yeah, no, it's not fun, but you have to protect your brand at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's a reflection of like what you do as well. Like if something turns out and it's crap, right? Like you were the one that did it, and it's like, well, I
Yeah,
didn't want to do, but you don't have the opportunity to tell the world that you can't go out and be like, well, we did this ad, but I didn't want to do it. That guy, so
yeah,
that's the risk that you run with that as well. So super
yeah.
important. Um, why don't you talk a little bit about what you're using as far, so you mentioned obviously social media, Instagram's huge for you, but like what other kind of like tools, again, whether it's AI or Instagram or platform, like anything that you think is kind of unique to you or that you makes you feel like you guys are a little bit different?
Uh, that one's a little hard for me because I mean, we use so many different things. So I mean, whether it's a video or photo shoot or we're trying to catch, someone's attention, we could go from, a creative email thing with like MailChimp, which MailChimp has grown so much. They're still
Yeah,
growing. They're great. They're intertwining with so many other uh, tools out there. I can't even
sure.
think of the word right now.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and then I've recently also switched my whole team to Final Cut. I know you probably don't
Oh
know a
yeah.
lot about that, but Final Cut is something where I'm like, I want to stay up in, the new tools and so Final Cut is something that I've slowly been moving all my whole entire team to and teaching them how to use it. And because, if you can't stay in the same place, you have to keep
Yeah.
growing. And so for us, like the Final Cut has been, a make it or break it. You can tell the quality in our videos, even from like some of the first videos we made. I'm like, from a year from now, I'm like, geez, how did I think that was okay? But like, and I'm sure that's going to continue on. But yeah, like, stuff like that. I I think one thing for us that sets us apart is just really capturing something different for our clients,
Yeah.
make it super different. And whether that's the crazy photo shoot, a video shoot, whatever it is, yeah,
Yeah.
we're for it.
For sure. So talk about it. Like, what's one of the crazier or like memorable campaigns or shoots or whatever that you've done?
Ooh, let's see.
I mean, the pizza box was pretty good on the roof of the
We've
building.
had so many. I'm trying to think. I know one campaign we did just to like, show how like our creative side, I always say, is we got like we rented a mansion and we did a million different looks. I mean, you walked in and it was like creative zone. It was like crazy. You had a model doing some edgy, weird shoot in the corner here with the photographer. And over here you had some luxury, beautiful model doing a glamour shoot. And then over here you had like the Mr. and Mrs. Smith, like badass, like I was like directing all these
Oh,
different shoots,
nice.
running around in a circle to show people that fashion is what you make it. So it was like a big campaign. Like it was right when it was breaking, where like people are like, "Oh, if you're a model, you have to be skinny. This, that. This is fashion rules." And I'm like, "Fashion is what you make it." That's how I've
Right.
always took it. So like, I'm going to show you guys what fashion is. It is everything. So we did a huge campaign and did all these crazy looks, and people loved it. You will find something that you like in one of those categories. So
Yeah,
that was
that's
probably
awesome. That sounds fun. I think it's important in that creative process and when you're doing things like you're talking about, that like there is no bad ideas. Like just throw the ideas out, right? Like it's
yeah.
if we don't use it, we don't use it. But there really are no bad ideas. I used to have like a CEO that I worked for, and he's like, "Dude, Colin, I gotta tell you," he's like, "you give me endless amounts of ideas, and honestly, 90 of them might be crap, but there's 10 good ones, and they work, right? And I'm happy with them." He's like, "Don't ever stop doing that." So like, talk a little bit about your creative process, because like it's not like you just come up with that idea that you just talked about right away, right? So what is you and your team like? How do you go about that?
Honestly, I'm really in tune with music. So a lot of let's start with videos. A lot of my videos, I'll hear a song and I'll be driving, and I don't actually really tell anybody this. And well, here we go. Well, I'll be driving and I'll hear a song, and all of a sudden I'm putting a video to it, like how this and that, and I'm creating a story, and I'm like, okay. So then I'm sitting here driving, like adding notes while I'm driving. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I need to do this video, and a lot of it really starts with something like that. Like I hear something and I see it, and I want to recreate my vision. And that's the hardest part, is creating your vision, right? Because
Right.
people can't see what you see. And so, luckily, my team has, we kind of are molding together to, when I tell them something, they're like, okay, now we know what you mean, Mel. But yeah, music is definitely what motivates my creativity, and sometimes I have to sit there alone and get something going, and then I bring the team in and I'm like, I want you to add to it because
Yeah.
sometimes I miss something or something I could have done better.
Well,
So
talk about your team as well. Like, so how did you build your team? Like, what do you find for, you're a media house or a media company. What do you find are like those critical roles for you to have on your team?
yeah, so thank God I have a team now. I used to do everything
Yeah.
until, as we have all learned, you burn yourself out. I was burnt out really bad. And so, and that's just one career. And so I started with, actually, it's really funny because my whole team now are also models in my agency. And
Nice.
so, yeah, it started with, interns. One of my media guys that I went to Jamaica with, to shoot for my own modeling thing, and he started working with me. And it was really just through my experiences. And then my media manager, Kyle, he was one of my models, and I loved his work ethic. And he, for me, when I see somebody that's like they're on it, they communicate, blah blah blah, like, you see all this good work ethics, you're like, okay,
Yeah.
like, I want you on my team. So
Sure.
he slowly became a model slash media manager. Same with my connection manager, and then my model manager, same thing. It's funny, we all are in healthcare modeling, and we're in Mel.Media. And
Nice.
so I think we all do really well with juggling, everything
Well, so you
that.
mentioned it a little bit that like those people are doing different things, but like talk more about like what their roles are. So like you have this person and they handle what, and that person they handle what. You know what I mean? Because like for me, same thing. Like I have a business partner that I work with, Christian, right? That
Yeah, yeah,
he's amazing at website SEO, right? I know what I'm not good at, and it's not that
yeah,
I'm not good at it. I just he's better, and like you put people that are really
yeah,
good
yeah.
around you, right? So like what? Talk a little bit more about like what exactly those people do.
Yeah, so Tori, my model manager, she obviously takes care of all the modeling. So she will book them. She will respond to all our clients for any modeling inquiries. She will, honestly, right now we just had a meeting yesterday. I'm like, put together like the whole schedule of like what you see coming up from photo shoots. So we have like ads that come up. How are we going to promote our modeling agency? Okay, well, we have like Barrett Jackson coming up. We have this. We need to do these type of shoots. And then I always ask, and then try to make it different. So she'll put in her ideas, and then I always, ask my team, like, find a creative way to make it different though. Like,
Yeah.
okay, anyone can wear a cute golf outfit, but like how can we make it, different? And so that's what she does. Kyle, my media manager, he takes care of, like, he literally is on top of it. He really is. He will remind the clients and our media members, like when the shoots are, a day before the shoot, we'll make sure the mood boards are ready to go, invoice is sent. He's like the guy that has the passwords to everything. Sometimes I'm like, oh, just ask Kyle. Like, I can't do this right now.
Seems
And
like
then Sophia,
operations type.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so it's all those little things, and the connections is still a new department.
Okay.
That's more of like our concierge business. And so that's growing. But yeah,
Yeah. So I was gonna say, talk a little because like Mel.Media, right? Like you have kind of these multiple arms. So there's a
yeah.
media portion, there's a model portion, and then there's this connections. I don't know much about connections, but obviously, like the listeners, you can talk about all of them. So just so they have an idea of kind of like how you've built that out and how you're growing it.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, I mean, the media portions, is pretty obvious. We do anything from photography to video shoots, from commercials, ads. We're actually starting this fun YouTube channel, so I'll tell you guys more about that later. And then for our modeling agency, we're now in a few states. So my goal is to be in every state, hopefully within a year. So Tori and I are actually traveling to SEMA and traveling to other events as models and to network
Okay.
to promote our agency. And then
Nice.
for connections, it's just concierge, from anything from um, renting homes, vehicles, hair, makeup. Literally, I mean, that's where like the whole middleman came in. Name something, and we'll figure it out for you.
Perfect. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, some people specialize, some people like to, open it up and like you said, you realize like once you do one thing, you actually are kind of doing that too. I
Yeah,
know in my own business, like I started out and I was like helping people with go to market strategies, almost more of a consultancy than it was like a marketing agency, right? But then like as I
yeah,
started doing more, and then again like partner with Christian, then I have other people who want to partner and do creative, and so like before I knew it, it's like, well, I'm actually running this like full service, can do anything really. as
Yeah.
it pertains to marketing. So it's cool how that kind of just evolves pretty quickly, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, and it's like people are like, "How did you even start a modeling agency?" I'm like, "It was an accident. I've had
Right,
it really was. So was connections. I had a bunch of models reach out and we're like, Mel, like we need work, this and that, and I was booking models for free
right.
forever. And I was like, why am I doing this for free?
Right,
I'm tired of doing it for
exactly. And,
free.
there's something to be said for that. I do like the model of, I've talked about on the show before where people, you go out and you do something or you do some work for free, you show your value, right? And that's okay for
Mhm.
a little while, but at some point, you got to
Yeah,
say, like, hey, this is, it's a business, right? And you want to continue to get this
yeah,
value, you want to see this value. But it becomes really hard when there's like friends involved. You know what I mean? Like when it's like, hey, I'm trying
oh
to be a good friend, but I also need to make a living.
yeah. Yeah, and I ran into that, and everyone's like, Mel, it's okay to say no. And I
Right.
learned the word no like a year ago. I'm like, okay, I can do that.
Yeah, I mean, so elaborate on that a little bit. I think that's something that, people out there that are listening and whatnot, I think a lot of us struggle with that, especially when you're trying to be like an entrepreneur and grow and all that kind of stuff. Like, it really is hard to say no, right? Like, I run into that
Yeah.
all the time. I'm sure you do too. So, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, honestly, a year ago, I was literally the person that was a yes man. They said, like I would be everywhere every single day. A lot of you guys know that I live again that triple life. So whether I'm working dental hygiene one day or I'm at a modeling event and then switch to media, and then someone's like, I need you to be at this event. So I would literally on the minute be everywhere, and I was exhausted all the time. And then it started affecting like my quality of work because I couldn't like think anymore. And so
Yeah.
everyone's like, Mel, like the people that really support you will understand when you say no. And I was like, no, 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 I'm going to let them down. And they're like, no,
Right.
no, no, like your true friends will understand. And I was like, all right. So I started saying no. And it's true. You obviously get those
Right.
random people that kind of, leave your circle and don't understand. And that's fine because like, honestly, probably was needed. But no, you say no. And it's, you need to sometimes
Yep.
and to value
Absolutely.
your work.
For sure. Yeah. It's been interesting as you go further. And I've had these conversations with some people too. It's like, at the end of the day, like the real friends, like they understand business stuff. And like when it comes
Yeah.
to, some people, Cody had a great quote on here saying that like I only do business with friends. Like now that he's at a stage where he's like, and the reason that I do that is because I don't want to like I want to be able to trust those people. He's like, I don't trust. So if I don't trust that guy like over there that screwed his like somebody else, like
Yeah.
I know that my friends are gonna like I can hold them accountable and I can be sure that we're both trying for each other, right? And we've
Absolutely.
had long conversations about it. And it's like at the end of the day, if something didn't work out work wise, like that's work. I can compartmentalize that and be like, listen, like we tried to make it work. I still like you as a person. You're still my friend.
Yeah.
We're not going to do work together. Like that's okay. You know what I mean?
And that's huge, making sure you can separate business and personal.
Yeah.
And I have to remind people that all the time. I'm like, hey, don't take this personal, but this. And so, I mean, it's really comes down to communication, right? As long
Right.
as you can communicate, you'll save every relationship, whether it's work or personal.
So I'm really interested to hear like how the model and connection thing has gone post COVID, right? Like there was a time where it was like all of a sudden there's no events, and listen, I had friends that worked they were whether they were booth babes or they were, field salespeople, right? Their whole job was based on going to events and going to conferences. Had another friend that they did design work and built booths. Like that was their whole business was to build booths. Well, when no one needs a booth, like
Yeah,
how do you go
that's
forward? So I'm curious to hear like from, as you were growing this business, it was right in the thick of all that. So
I mean, honestly, probably picked the worst time, but at the same time, I feel like the best time. you know, we had a lot more time to ourselves during COVID. And that's where all my thoughts just started coming together. And for me, some people are like, oh, we have all this time. Let's go play and have fun, which don't worry. I did that
yeah,
too. But I'm so business driven that I was like, wait a minute, like I have the time to figure this out. Like I'm going to do that. And so maybe, it was a little hard starting it towards like more at the end of COVID. But yeah, it was hard to pick up in the beginning. And then it goes back to that trust thing though. I would I would make sure that our models not only were there, but I would even design their outfits. They're like, hey, I want this, 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 and I don't think you can make that work in 24 hours. And guess what? Like I figured it out and I made it work. And
Yeah.
so because of, that, it was just a referral after referral after referral. And that's what kept us going. I've had a lot of clients with modeling promotions. I had to cut the models or ask for a lower, quote or whatever. And, we make it work. So I think really that's just what it comes down to. Heck, actually, I just had a client hit me up 2 days ago and was like, hey, we need two cheerleaders. And this is less than 24 hours.
Oh,
And
geez.
yeah. So I got done with dental about after 5, and they're like, we need two cheerleaders with red cheerleading outfits with the Chiefs thing on it
Yeah.
at 5:30 the next day. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I was like, okay, well, obviously that's like almost impossible. But so I was like, yeah, you know what? Let's make it work. So what did I do? I sat there online for hours looking for stuff that would arrive overnight. I put it together and I created it. I got a
Yeah.
chief thing, put it on, designed it, and then sent my models out. And you wouldn't have even noticed. And
That's
so it's like
crazy.
all these little things. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's I think what sets people apart too, right? It'd be very easy for you to be like, "Oh, I can't do it," and then you kick it. Well, now
Easy.
like that person's probably going to be like, "Oh, if I ever need anything, I just go to Mel and give you referrals," and that's probably why you haven't
Yeah.
had to spend on like ads and like bringing in new clients because of stuff like that. So
Yeah, it's been great. And actually, right now we're trying to slow down because we're doing a relaunch of Mel.Media. So
right,
um, there's a lot of cool things that we'll have to tell you guys in the future. But we're excited. So right now we're like trying not to take clients
yeah.
for the next month, but it's hard. Again, learning that no and yes. But
Hmm.
if I can really help somebody, then I will.
I was gonna say,
So
especially if like a project comes in that you really want to do, right?
yeah,
It's like you're like, oh, this is really gonna be a fun one. Like it's hard to turn that down. But talk a
yeah.
little about that. So again, in these coming months, right? You said you're gonna. I think you said you guys are getting back into a new office, which is awesome. Doing a little bit of growth. So talk about that.
Yeah, no, we just signed a new lease on a studio, and our studio has multiple rooms. So, like we just said, Mal Media is media models and connections. So we're going to put that all in one place. So when you come in, you have your studio, you're going to have your beauty bar where you can do your hair, makeup. You're going to have a place where you can get styled. Being a model, like it's so uncomfortable to have to like be in all these different places and hurry and rush to the actual studio. It's like, why don't you just put it all in one place? And so that's what I'm going to design in our studio where you can come in and hey, if you forgot your iron or your extra, guess what? We even have it here. So and then I'm going to be there. Sometimes people just need a little confident boost. Like
Yeah,
I can't tell you that enough. I work with models all the time. They're beautiful, they're gorgeous, but the second they get in front of the camera, they freeze. And I'm just like, so I will jump in there with them and I'll pose with them and I'll move
right.
with them and I'll loosen them up. And then all of a sudden you just see it just build and boom, you get the shot. And like that's the cool thing about being hands-on. I want to be more hands-on. So I was like, why don't we have our own studio? It's
Yeah.
it's time.
No, that's awesome. That's super cool. I think those creative houses and like all these things that are popping up now, it's just so cool because like you can get so much done. You know what I mean? And like being able to have somewhere to go, like a location, and to your point, like you could just dress it up however you need. You know what I mean? Like it's just a creative space that like, whether it's just white background, whatever, or some kind of green screen, you're doing something like post, or you just want to create, right? I think it's just so cool. Because the hard part I think we run into today, and I've talked about this before. I'm not a huge in-office guy. Like I joke that I already have enough. Like I don't need to be in an office because I get distracted. And then not only that, like I have enough family and friends that I already ignore. So like not on purpose, but like that I just, I'm too busy. So like, but I think we do struggle from that, like, I work from home. I'm here. I'm in my office that's in where my place where I live. Like I feel like having a place to go and separate your life from your work is really good. And we've
Yeah.
gotten away from that in general, right? The public, like a lot of people, I think I saw something was like 52% of people or something like that work from home now. Like it's crazy. So that'll be super cool for you guys. Talk a little bit about that though, because like I know again as a creative, you need to separate those lives too.
Yeah, absolutely. And my fiance will love that too. He's just like, I have my own little office here until we get our lease in October. But he's just like, you just work. You just work, work, work. And it's like, if it's there, I'm going to work. Like, I'm going to do it because I like it's the best feeling of getting ahead and getting something done. Right. But you also have to have a balance of having a personal life. And that's something that like I have to remind myself all the time, like I'm like, sorry, I have to work. Sorry, I have to work. And they're like, you're just working your life away. And back then I'd be like, who cares? Grind, grind, grind. But now I'm just like, okay, you know what? I can take 3 hours out of my day
Yeah.
and I can go to lunch with you. I can do this because you have to make the time for people too. Um, but also, again, it's a healthy balance. So I think having that office, again, it will help me to cut it off. Come home, and when I get home, no more work because
Yeah.
you need to detox your brain at some point too.
Right.
It's you just need that. But yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, no, that's going to be awesome for you guys. I'm super stoked for you because it'll, again, everything just onward and upward and growth. And again, you'll start to do more collaborations and partnerships. You just talked about that. Like Savannah and I have talked a lot over the years of, I don't get to shut off really. Like even when I am out or doing something or networking, you're still like kind of on, you know what I mean? You're
Always.
trying to like, you know, as much entertain, but also like you listen and you talk for business opportunities or partnerships or future clients or so I'm in the same boat with you. It's really tough, especially too in a very kind of social setting that is Scottsdale, right? Like this
Mhm.
is one of the most social places I've ever lived, right? Like, and I'm from the Bay Area, San Francisco, Silicon Valley, like it's outgoing and whatnot, but this place is like social central. People are always outside, they're always doing something, they're always on the move. So
Well, that's like the same with our dental office. We'll work dental and when we come home, we try to shut it off,
yeah,
and same thing when we go out, happily to say this, but we're like everyone's dental providers. So,
yeah,
we'll be at like a dinner or out in nightlife and, you'll have your patient come up, a little tipsy and they're like, look at my tooth. And I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
like, oh
Exactly.
gosh.
Well, I can
So yeah.
imagine too, but like you said, though, you guys have made a name, and that's like a really important part of like branding, right? When we talk about branding on the show quite a bit, it's like you are your brand, right? And especially for you
Absolutely.
guys, like it, between the dental practice and Mel.Media and all that kind of stuff, like same thing. It's who you guys are. You're recognizable. You're doing stuff. Do social media, so like it just becomes part of who you are. And I think it's really easy too. It's one of those social kind of it eases social anxiety to be able to talk about like someone's work or so when they know what you do, like again, they go, oh, like, hey, my teeth look great, and like you're just like, okay, thanks.
We love it, right? Honestly, like we love it though. It's like
Yeah.
two different worlds, right? But like I absolutely love like my patients and I'm like crazy motivated. I'll text them, did you floss today? Remember our goals, And then like the other side media, like, hey, you're sending your photos soon. Like it's just like two worlds, but I love them both so much. And I'm happy that people trust us. And that's it's a great feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's cool. Is there anything else that you guys have cooked up or that you're working on that you want to talk about or mention?
So my long-term goal is to start like a little series. I'm gonna probably start with like a YouTube channel and episodes. And then obviously my long-term goal would to be have my own show. But we're gonna just start from like the very beginning. And
Yeah.
really it's to travel around the world and highlight people that need to be noticed, whether it's people or businesses. And so we're starting our first episode next month, and it's with this DJ named Esther. I don't know if you guys heard of that. She is badass. She plays the violin. She's
Cool.
DJing. She's the main DJ for the Chargers. So we're actually going to fly in to LA and go behind the scenes and film her from beginning to end. Like I always say, like people love real. So like
Yeah.
I told her, I'm like, I want to film everything. I'm like, what do you do before and after? And she went through it with me. I was like, "Can I film that?" And she's like, "Yeah." And then afterwards, I sit there and I lay on the floor because I'm just so tired. I go, "Can I film that?" And she's like, "Sure." And I was like, "Because people don't see that. They look at you and like, oh, you're so
Yeah.
naturally talented, and then you just look pretty up there, but they have no idea what goes into it." So like, I want to travel and like show that.
Yeah,
So
that
like that's
storytelling
something we're
piece,
working
right?
on.
Yeah, you were
Yeah.
talking about, and that's huge these days. I mean, the amount of people that consume and just want to like and again it can be macro issues or whatever's going on in the country or in life or your family or whatever, but they want to just like people are so curious about how other people have it. Well, what about them? How are they living, right? And so like that kind of content is incredible.
I'm excited for it, and I just feel like just for somebody myself that comes from, I constantly get like, oh, you come from a wealthy family. Oh, everything was given to you. I was like, no one has no idea. Like,
Right.
I literally had been on my own for so long. I'm the one that got myself into college courses when I was in high school. Um, I started working the second I was legally able to.
Yeah.
I've had two jobs my whole life. Like, everything I've done has been by myself. And I actually don't even let people help me. My fiance's like, let me invest in this. Let me
Right.
do this. And I'm like, it's taken me so long because I won't even let my own fiance invest in Mel.Media.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I want to do it by myself. I know it's going to take me longer. So it's like,
Right.
showing everyone's story, because people just look at you and they assume your story. And it's like, no, tell them, show them.
Yeah,
So
that's exactly it. I mean, being able to tell that story. And the other thing you talked about it earlier is just being real, right? Like, I come on this show and talk, and like, I swear I say things that maybe aren't the most like quaint, whatever. But I also feel like people appreciate just hearing real, raw, natural conversation. And I don't know if I've ever really talked about that, but like, I do very little editing to this. Like, whether people
I love
notice or
that.
not, but I'm just saying it's not like I have 2 hours of conversation that I boil down to 45 minutes. It's more or less like we talk for about 45 to an hour, and it comes out about 45 to an hour. I got just random little mess ups or whatever, but nothing, and I
Yeah,
think people appreciate that. It's like a real raw
absolutely.
conversation.
Hey, we have bloopers. Who cares?
Yeah. And sometimes those are even better. Like, I don't, it
Yeah.
doesn't even, I think it's better.
Yeah,
So,
I think so too.
yeah.
Especially how social media is with everyone looks at, everything now. We have young kids comparing themselves to be perfect and be this and be that. And you're like, nope, that's not reality. It's just not.
100%. And like that's what the big difference is. Like we were talking earlier about, like when you're doing shoots and ads and like evergreen content, that's one thing that like you're trying to like attention to detail, make everything perfect. But like Gary Vee talks a lot about it, where he's like, dude, people are so in their heads about like every little thing about how it's going to turn out if you're doing like social media and daily content. He's like, just put it out.
Mhm.
If you have a typo, who cares? You missaid something, you misspelled
Yeah.
something. Like again, I said Gila instead of Gila. Like, okay, nobody cares. Like they'll figure it out. It's
You're not the only
GILN.
one.
And so I
You're
think,
not the only one. Yeah.
yeah, it's paralysis by analysis, right? It's people just
Yeah.
overthinking and like trying to like make everything perfect. And to your point, I think people just want to see real. They want to see behind the scenes. They don't really care if you mess up, right? And so
Yeah.
like even as we're talking, it's like sparking ideas for stuff. I'm like, oh, I'm doing your car thing. I'm like, I need to make a note.
Sticky notes are my favorite.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Got them
I
everywhere.
appreciate it. It's super fun. Every time I do this, I grill for like, an hour, 45 minutes. Is there anything that you want to ask me?
Ooh.
Tables
I
turn.
mean, I mean, what got you started in this whole marketing world? Like, how did you know that's even something you wanted to do out of everything you could do?
That's actually a really funny story. So I was working in a restaurant, right?
Uh-huh.
And this was after college. So I actually, I'll wind it back even more. So I worked for the athletic department at University of Arizona. When I got done, I kind of was like, I don't know if this is the road for me, because you kind of sit in these roles for a long time. Like someone has to pass on or move, in order to move up. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to Silicon Valley, see what happens when I get there. Right. Well, this was right at a time where like not a ton of people were hiring. All my experience had been in like college and working in like retail, things like that. So I go and I get a restaurant job, and I'm like, whatever, waiting tables. And I remember sitting there one day, and I'm throwing out applications all over the place. And a friend of mine, Allie, that we grew up with, she worked at a PR agency, and she's like, hey, like, you should come work with us. It's super fun. I think you'd be really good at it. Like, check it out. Well, I go to
Yeah.
do that, but they were only offering like an internship. And I'm like, I have a college degree. I'm 23 years old, 22 years old, whatever. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not taking an internship. Well, and so I remember sitting there, like I was crying to my parents. I was like, I have a college degree and I can't get a job.
Mhm. Yeah.
I went and I was like, you know what? I sucked it up. And again, same thing. A lot of people don't know that, but I
Yeah.
actually took the internship, but didn't give up the restaurant job. So what I did was I went into the internship at 5 a.m. and would leave there by 2 o'clock. Right. So put in the same hours, but had to go in super early so that I could put in the full 8 hours or whatever.
Oh, wow.
Went in, did that, and then left all the way from San Francisco and drove back to Menlo Park, which is like an hour and a half, just so I could make it to the restaurant, so I could still have money. Like, because I had to take this, like, literally they were paying
You
$15 an hour or something for this
got to
internship.
survive.
So I did both of those for a long time. Like, it was literally like 6+ months. And, you know, my only day off was Sundays, got out of football.
No
And
Chick-fil-A, but yeah, football.
yeah, exactly. So I worked 6 days a week. 5 of the days I was working 2 jobs, right? And finally, the PR agency, like, I was doing so well that they offered me a full-time position, and that the rest was history, right? So I worked
That's
I
so
worked for the PR agency for little over a year. Then got hired in-house to do PR for one of the clients that I had at the agency. They liked my work so
cool.
much that I went to work for them. Did that for 8 years. Actually, I was with that startup for 8 years at Ignite, and then now I'm where I'm at. So it was a long journey, but, like, again, same thing. People don't really talk about it much, but it's a struggle.
There's always a struggle. I mean, like I could go on for days with that, you know, like how I even got gas money. Like I would go to Plato's Closet and like sell like
Yep.
a purse and then go work as a dental assistant and then like had enough gas to go to college. And then I would do like, it's just like, I don't tell people those stories. I don't know. Maybe I should,
Well,
but like,
it's one of those things that I'm like, I tell my wife all the time, I'm like, you know, I don't want to tell people now, but one day this will make a hell of a book. You know what I mean? Like, because I don't want to. You
I'll
don't
read
want to
it.
jinx it. You don't want, yeah, you don't want to, like, you know, tout while you're in the middle of it. But it's like when I kick my feet up at 60 or 65,
Yeah.
it'll be a hell of a book.
That's why I tell people. They're like, "How?" I'm like, "I haven't made it yet. I'm just starting."
Right.
Like at least for Mel.Media. I mean, as dental hygienist, I think I've hit my goal.
Yeah.
Which is not, I wish you never really hit as hygienist because I'm a science nerd. I like to keep learning.
Yeah.
But like Mel.Media, I'm just starting. So yeah, we'll tell our stories one day.
For sure. No, we'll reconvene in a few years and see where we're at, for sure.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, thanks, Mel. I got to give a big shout out too as well. HighLevel. Always been working with them on this podcast and my business. Fantastic tool. Literally plug every marketing tool I have into it. It's fantastic. Email, text, can do all my ClickFunnels, everything. So awesome play. Awesome. There's a link in the in this episode and also in my bio to check them out and get a free trial. Mel, thank you again. I appreciate you coming on. It was fantastic.
Always. This was fun. Thanks for having me.
You got it. You got it.